Hi, once again, welcome to one of my video tutorials. Now today, we're going to be working on a golden eagle. Now golden eagles are beautiful birds of prey, aren't they? They really are. And that colour, well, golden, I know, but trying to achieve that colour is quite tricky, so I'm going to show you how to do that anyway. Now we're going to start off by painting that lovely green background. It's not too vivid, not too bright, not over the top, because I want that golden eagle to stand out against that background. We have to remember that our main focus, our main centre of attention is the bird, not the background. The background is just there to, well, sort of complement it more than anything. And backgrounds, being backgrounds, well, they're going to go whichever way they want to go, because it depends on the way the water flows on that paper. Depends, obviously, on how much pigment you mix within those colours. But also, what's the consistency of those paints? How thick are they? Are they watery, milky, creamy, thick? And the more pigment you add into that paint, the brighter the background will be. But you might want that background a little bit duller than the way I've got mine on here. If that's the case, just add a little bit more water to them colours and less pigment. Think about it that way around. Notice as well, around the bird itself, I've allowed the background, just white of the paper, to show through. Just a hint of colour within there, that's all. So it's really, really watery in those areas. That way it really focuses the viewer's eye in towards that bird. The background sort of pulls their eyes in towards the centre there, which is what I wanted to achieve. And that's all done through the wet in wet technique. So I'll show you how to do that. Now we'll start off with the eye. Now the eye itself is quite detailed, isn't it? Now you can see with the eye, we're going to put a basic background colour on there first of all, just a wet in wet wash. And once that wash is on, and it's nice and dry, we can start adding in a few little details along the way as well. Just by using a barely loaded brush, and I mean a barely loaded brush, so hardly any paint in there whatsoever. And that way we'll achieve very fine details, very fine dots around the iris of the eye. Now once that yellow is nice and dry, then we'll paint that pupil. Now I very often paint the pupil that little bit smaller to begin with, then gradually get wider to the right size as I go along. That's a little bit of a technique which I tend to use so I don't overpaint it, so I don't make it too big. I don't want the pupil looking far too big within the eye socket, I really don't. So by doing that, it will help control the size and the shape of that pupil. Once that pupil's on, then we'll add some highlights in there as well. Now the highlights are mostly concentrated from the middle to the left hand side, aren't they? But what I've done with that, I've made sure that I've not overloaded that brush, and I've made sure as well that the white paint I'm using, which is a watercolour white, is more of a creamy consistency, so nearly thick, only just paintable. At least that way around you get a nice bright white on that paper. Now that white does have to be opaque, not semi-opaque or semi-transparent or anything like that. It needs to be opaque. And yes, you can use white gouache instead as well. Once you've got the highlights on, then what I'm going to do is add a little bit of a tint of blue over the top, just in small areas here and there. Because you can see that blue is very vivid within that highlight, isn't it? And because of that, I want to make that stand out. But you can use colour over the top of white. But there's a way of doing that. Once again, I'm going to show you exactly how to do that, okay? Now, painting something like this is really good fun, isn't it? Especially when it's a wildlife subject. Now, I've got well over 150 other watercolour wildlife subjects on my Patreon channel. I go through every single video, right from the start all the way through to the end for you, show you how to do them as well. So if you fancy being spoiled for choice when looking for a wildlife subject to paint, have a look at the link in the description down below for my Patreon channel. Hopefully, I'll see you there. And then we can make a start on painting that very solid and dangerous looking beak. Oh yeah. Now initially you would look at that reference photograph and think, hang on, it's black. Kind of black and greys, that sort of colour really. But it's not. There's a lot of colour within that, believe it or not. And the colour is more on the cool side of the spectrum as well. So more of a sort of bluey blacks, bluey greys, that side of things. However, there's also yellow in there. And also a little bit of pink. Pink? Yeah, a little bit of pink in there as well. So I'll be adding that one in to make sure it stands out. I know, didn't think it was pink. So when you really zoom into that reference photograph and really study that photograph, they start to see all these other colours within there. You've got to really pinch in to that photograph on a tablet, an iPad, a mobile phone or something like that. And we'll add those colours on in layers. Just step by step, slowly building those layers up on the beak. Considering the shape, the form of the beak. Working on the upper mandible and the lower mandible as well. Once the washes are on and they're all nice and dry, then we can make a start on adding those details on that beak as well. Now you can see there's actually quite a lot of detail on there, isn't there? There really is. When you start to look at that very carefully, you can see that the details have got a lot of shape to them as well. They're following the contour of that beak. Trying to think about the shape all the time as you're working with that beak, and that's how I tend to work it. Once all them details are on the beak, then we need to add the white highlights over the top. but be really careful when using white. I use it a lot within all my paintings, I know, but you want to just be careful. And if you think, well, is that enough or not, then just hang fire, just go into somewhere else, then come back to it with fresh eyes and think, actually, that's probably enough. Because the good thing about white is that you can add another layer on the top of white if you want to. Once it's dry though, let it dry first. Now, please don't forget to click on like and subscribe underneath this video here, because at least that way around, when I release a new video here on YouTube for you to watch, you shouldn't miss it. Now, once that beak is painted, then we've got to think about working on all them lovely golden feathers. But you'll be surprised when you look at the colours we've got. There's actually quite a variety of colours within the feathers. You know, when you're looking at the browns and the kind of umbre shades as well. I know. We'll start off by working on the foundation washes first of all. Now the foundation washes, I want to make it really pale to begin with and gradually build that up in layers just on the foundation wash. Not too many layers of washes really, because I really want to make a start on the detail work. I know, there's so much detail to work on. So you want to keep it fairly pale, but also even at this level, at this stage, think about the shape a little bit. Okay, look at the shape of the head. Look how it gets darker towards the neckline down here, but it's very pale towards the very top of the head, isn't it? But you notice that with that photograph as well, and how that tends to work. So these are just all them colours behind the scenes is what we're looking at. So behind all that lovely detail over the top. Now, once the foundation washes are nice and dry, then we can make a start on the feathers. To do that, we'll start off around the outside edge of the eye, working with a paler detail layer first of all, and then gradually work our way over the top of the head, and then down the back and the chest. But we're looking at the shapes, we're looking at the contours, we're looking at the overall curvature of those feathers. I know, when you look at this, look at the direction, look at the way they curve over. And you see they all vary slightly as you work your way around the top of the head. Look at the direction these curved lines go in as well. That's very important. Yes, we've already started thinking about the shape by adding the tonal values for the background washes. But now you've got to think about the shape for them lines going on the body. And to do that, think about a clock face. Think about the direction a hand is facing. So for example, along the top of the head here, you can see right at the very top of the head, it's more or less going towards 9 o'clock, isn't it? You see that? But yet it's curved at the same time. So you've got 9 o'clock, but a bit of a curved line. And then curved lines vary, as I said, just slightly as you work your way around the top of the head. Think about a wave, and where you've got the different levels of a wave. Okay, that's not a bad idea actually. I wish I'd said that within my main video. But that's one way you can look at this. And the way that each wave tends to grow and go down, grow and go down like that. And then between each one, there's another one. So where two go down to a point, come down, there's one right in between that as well at the back. And that's sort of the idea with this as well, but they all vary a little bit in shape and size. But when you look down here, the feathers are quite individual, aren't they? So we need to treat them as such as well. So when you're painting these, paint one feather at a time. For each layer, of course. If you're working on the mid-tone layer, put all the mid-tones on one, then the mid-tones on the next one, and so on and so on. And then when you work on the dark layer, then do the same with that. But try to work on one feather at a time rather than working on multiple feathers, which can get a little bit confusing if you do that, because you tend to lose your way and think, well, which feather was I on then? Look at the shapes of each one as well. Notice how they get darker when one feather goes underneath another. So that one's going over the top there, for example, and you've got one going underneath, which is a really dark area, isn't it? So you can see that when you start working on these feathers, the way that each feather is layered one after the other. Okay, so they're all going to go underneath each one. And the darkest area is going to be really deep into the crease underneath the one above it. And that'll give you a nice kind of three-dimensional feel to those feathers. Now I filmed this partly as a YouTube project, but look out over the next few weeks for both painting the eye and the beak here on YouTube. If you want to paint the feathers as well, they'll be available on my Patreon channel, and I'll put a little link down below for you to click on, okay? Now I do have plenty of videos here on YouTube on how to paint birds. So have a look at the link to the top right hand corner of the screen, and I'll see you there.